In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how to predict answers before you hear them in the IELTS listening test and how this can help you to get a band 7 in listening because you will be well prepared for what you're going to hear. Now, before we get into how to actually predict the answers before you hear them, I want to quickly talk to you about what most students do, which can be a problem. Well, the first thing is they just listen. Okay, they just sit there and listen with no strategy. They don't really try and guess what answers could come before they actually hear the audio. They don't try to paraphrase. They just listen. And this is a problem, especially if you're not a native English speaker, where you can understand English very, very easily. You need to help yourself by doing certain things so you can improve your score and understand more of what you hear and be ready for what you hear. Okay, so don't just listen. That is not enough. You need to do certain things, which we're going to talk about in this video. The next thing is some students try to hear every single word, and this is a waste of time and it doesn't help you because you only need to listen to certain parts to get the answers correct. And if you try to hear every single word, well, this is probably going to cause you a bit of stress. And like I just said before, it's not necessary. Okay, so don't worry if you can't understand every word. Number one, it's not necessary. And number two, it's not going to help you. Next, a lot of students panic when they miss a question or they miss an answer. Well, don't panic. Relax. It's all okay. The world's not going to end, especially if you're prepared. And if you are prepared, you should be ready for 2 questions. So you should be listening for the key words or the synonyms for the current question you're looking at, and you should also be ready for the question afterwards. So let's pretend the first question is about the advantages. Well, you're listening for advantages. Let's pretend the next question, is about the negatives. Well, you should be listening, or not listening, but ready for that, just in case you miss the advantages. Okay, so always be listening for 2 topics or 2 questions at once. And if you miss something, don't worry. Okay, go to the next question. And the last thing that a lot of students do is just guess randomly. Now, this is a bad strategy unless you just miss the answer. Okay, never leave an answer blank like this. Always guess if you can. But if you have the chance to listen and you understand, obviously it's better to actually listen for the answer rather than just guessing randomly. Okay, let's get into the good stuff now, and let's talk about what high scorers do, because there are certain things that high scoring students do. And I've been teaching IELTS for many years and examining for many years, and I've seen the same things in my high scoring students. So let's start with number 1. Okay, the first thing they do is predict the grammar or part of speech. Now, please note that this is these strategies in this video, they're not applicable to every single question type. When it comes to matching questions in part 3, you can't really predict the grammar or part of speech. These are normally more relevant for part 1 and part 4 of the speaking test. Okay, so part 1 and part 4 as well. So what I mean by that is, I mean that before the audio starts, you should identify or think about what type of word the blank requires. So maybe it's a noun, maybe it's a number, maybe it's an adjective, maybe it is a verb. And sometimes you can even go deeper than that. So let's focus on nouns right now. Okay, nouns. Obviously, there are different types of nouns. There are singular nouns. There are plural nouns. There are countable nouns. And of course, there are uncountable nouns. So sometimes you will be able to guess exactly what type of noun it is before you actually hear the answer. So let me give you an example. If the question is something like this, heard from a, and then the answer is going to be here. Well, if you look here, we've got a. So after a, we would normally have a singular noun. Okay, so sometimes you can even know what type of noun you're going to hear, which could be helpful. So let's have a look at these examples and we'll talk about them and do them together. So first one, the conference will be held in the. Well, what comes after the? Correct, okay, a noun. What type of noun? Could we have a singular noun, the dog? Yes, we could. Countable, the dogs? Yes, we could. Oh, sorry, not countable. Sorry, plural. Yes, we could. We could have a plural noun. And we could also have uncountable and countable as well. The total cost is, well, you can see here we've got the, looks like euros symbol. So this will be a number. Maybe it'll be something like 10 or 50. Next one, she was extremely something about the results. We've got was, we've got extremely. So what do you think goes here? Well, the answer is it's going to be an adjective. She was extremely happy. She was extremely sad. Now, if you're not sure, you can always put in a word from a certain part of, or that is a certain part of speech and see what happens. So what I mean by that is, let's pretend, just pretend we put a verb in here. Let's pretend we put the word eat. She was extremely eat about the results. Well, that doesn't make sense. So we know that a verb will not be the answer. Let's move on to the next one. The package weighs something kilograms. Well, again, pretty simple. That will probably be a number. Next one, applicants must the form online. Well, after must, we normally have a verb. Well, I hope you said verb. Okay, so put verb in there. So for example, must eat, must go, must drink. Okay, normally we have a verb after must. Now you can see how quickly we did that. That's exactly how fast you should do it in the listening test because you don't have much time. And apart from that, it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple to do this. So let's go back and let's go back to number 2, which is, the second thing that high scorers do, which is predict the type of information. So what I mean by that is they think about what category of information you're listening for. For example, price, date, reason, name, location. Okay, it really could be anything. Now, this is similar to the first method we looked at just over here, but it is a little bit different, and you'll see that in just a moment. So let's go down here and have a look at these questions. So course fee, well, that will be a number. Pretty simple. So it could be $10, $100, whatever. Deadline. Well, a deadline means a time or a date when you have to submit something, before that time or that date. So yeah, this could be a time, or it could also be a date. Okay, we don't know, not sure. Next one, reason for absence. Well, reason is a noun, it's a thing. So the answer is probably a noun. Maybe it could be something like sickness. Okay, sickness is a noun, it fits there. Now, going back to what I said before, if you're not sure, put something else in. Maybe we could put eat. That's a verb. Well, reason for absence, eat. That doesn't really make sense, so that would not be the answer. Let's move on. Hotel address. Well, pretty simple. That would be maybe a number. It could be a name, or it could be both. It could be something like 10 Happy Street. It really depends. But in the real test, normally you will just get something like a name that you have to fill in. Okay, they'll already have the 10. Then they'll have this. I have number 1 here. And then they'll have street. So you just have to listen for the actual name of the street. Finally, emergency contact. Well, contact could be a name. Okay, it could be, the name of the person. Alternatively, it could be a number, but I think here it's probably going to be a name. So again, this is pretty similar to the first step, but it's a little bit different, and you can see how quickly we did it. Okay, we did it very, very quickly. Now let's go back to the third thing that high scorers do. The next thing is they always predict or think about synonyms and they paraphrase. Now, a synonym is a word that has a similar or the same meaning as another word. So let me give you an example. Benefit and advantage. Okay, these are very, very similar words. They're just talking about a good thing. And the reason you need to do this is because of what it says right here. The audio almost always uses different words from the question. So maybe benefit will be in the question, but then disadvantage will be in the audio. Okay, so you've always got to listen or think about your synonyms, because if you just pretend you just focus on this word here, benefit, well, you might never hear that. Okay, so you've really got to think about synonyms and paraphrasing, and also think about the meaning. So what is the meaning of a benefit? Well, it's talking about a good thing. Okay, so you need to be listening for good thing. Maybe they say good thing. Maybe they say advantage. Maybe they say upside. Okay, you've just got to be listening for the meaning. And that is very, very important when it comes to listening and even reading. You've got to think about the meaning. Okay, very, very important. So what we're going to do now is we'll have a look at some sentences, and we'll try to think about some paraphrases. Now, I've done the first one for you, so you can see it. So this says, thinks the project will require more time than expected. Well, here is how they might say it in the audio. I don't think we've allowed enough time for this. So it's the same meaning, but different words. Okay, same meaning. And then look what they say. It's going to take longer than we expected. Let's move on to B now. Something or believes that the topic is too broad. Okay, broad means big and should be narrowed down. Narrowed down means made smaller. So just pause the video and think about what are some other ways we could say this. Well, if you had a chance to think about that, here is the answer. At the moment, it's too wide, okay, too big, too much. We should focus on something more specific, okay, more smaller, or smaller, sorry, not more, smaller. Let's move on to C, is worried about the availability of reliable data. Again, pause the video, see if you can paraphrase this one. Well, if you had a chance to think about that, we could say something like this. I'm not sure we'll be able to find enough trustworthy. Okay, because trustworthy is very similar to reliable here to support what we're arguing. Okay, so again, similar meaning, different words. Maybe this here is the question, and maybe this here is what the audio says because we've got those inverted commas there. All right, let's move on to D. Feels confident about presenting the final results. Again, quickly pause the video and let's have a look at the answer. Well, maybe the person will say comfortable, speaking in front of people, very similar to presenting. And then they say, the presentation doesn't worry me. Let's move on to E. Suggests dividing the tasks. Okay, dividing, maybe splitting, separating, giving the tasks more evenly. Okay, evenly means the same. So equal, identical, or maybe not identical, but similar, same. So let's have a look and we'll see the paraphrase. Maybe we should share out the work a bit more fairly. Remember I said share before, fairly, so no one ends up doing too much. Okay, similar meaning, just different words. So this is very, very important, this strategy here, when it comes to, let me write it up here, part 3 of the listening test, because normally in part 3, you will have matching exercises. And for matching, you need to listen, read the questions and decide which thing belongs with which thing. Or sometimes you need to paraphrase as well to make sure you understand. Okay, so those are the 3 methods. Now let's keep going and continue down here and talk about why these techniques work. Okay, so you know what to do, but why do they work? Well, the first reason is you're gonna know what you're listening for. Okay, maybe you're listening for a noun, maybe you're listening for a verb, maybe you're listening for advantage or disadvantage. Okay, you'll know what to listen for. You won't have to try to hear every single thing, because you will know specifically what to focus on and you'll know what not to focus on. You'll feel less stressed. That means, or that's because you won't have to listen for every single word. This is also something that's true. You'll find the answer faster. Okay, if you know what you're listening for, if you've already thought about synonyms, if you've thought about paraphrasing, you'll know what you'll get the answer faster. And the best result of all of this is you'll probably make fewer mistakes, okay, because of all of these reasons here. And that's what you want. You know, if you want a band 7, you want to get minimum 30 out of 40 correct for listening, because that will be a band 7. And hopefully you can get even higher than that. All right, now before we finish the lesson, I just want to give you a little test and we'll sort of do it together. I'm going to talk you through my thought processes here and I'll show you how to do it very, very quickly. So if you're ready, let's get started. So section 1, as you can see, we've got fill in the blanks or completion. So let's very quickly think about what goes in each one of these gaps. So you know what? You don't even have to read the full sentence. Not important right now. You know, it is important when you're actually listening, but if you're just predicting very, very quickly, you don't need to read the whole sentence. So it says it lacked sufficient. Well, sufficient is an adjective. After sufficient, we would have a noun. Handle with extreme. Well, if you handle something with, normally after with, we have a noun. May face something action, or action is a noun, so we'll probably have an adjective here. We've got to, so normally after to, we have a verb. Closed until further. Well, further is describing something, so we'd probably have a noun here. So that's how quickly you should do it. Let's go to section 2. Okay, this one's very, very simple. Membership number. Well, that's a number. Length of the course. That could be a time, you know, something like 3 weeks, 4 weeks. Method of payment. So how are you going to pay? Well, that's probably a noun as well. It's probably something like debit or credit card. Reason. Remember, reason is a noun. Okay, so that's a noun. Nearest train station. So that's probably a location. That's probably going to say the location of the train station. Now, a location is a noun. So yeah, it's probably going to be a noun as well. So again, look how quickly we did that. Okay, speed, speed, speed. Now, when it comes to section 3, when you have matching sections or when you're trying to paraphrase and think about the meaning in your own words, it might take a little bit longer, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. So let's do this one together. The student thinks the instructions were unclear. Well, the first thing that I'm thinking of is maybe something about I don't understand. I don't know what to do. So let's have a look and see what they said. There we go. Yeah, I wasn't sure. Okay, what we were supposed to do. Okay, so when you're thinking about paraphrasing, always think about what is the meaning? How can I explain this in my own words? Okay, next one. She believes the survey results might not be accurate. Well, when I hear not accurate, I think maybe not correct. Maybe we can't not rely on them. This is what I'm thinking straight away. So let's have a look. And yeah, it says there's a chance the responses don't reflect or show what people truly think. Next one, he feels the group discussion wasn't productive. Well, if something wasn't productive, maybe we could say not effective. Maybe we could say it didn't achieve much. Okay, it did not achieve much. Maybe it was a waste of time. Yeah, it's many different ways to say that. So let's have a look and see what they say. Yeah, we didn't make much progress. Okay, progress means moving forward. So if you're not making progress, well, it's not really effective because nothing really happened. So that's how quickly you can do paraphrasing or thinking about the meaning or, putting things into your own words. And this is a skill that you should really, really practice. Okay, it's going to be very, very useful, not only for listening, but also for reading as well. So I hope those techniques were useful for you. Try them in the listening test, even in the reading test sometimes, and let me know how you go. Now, if you want to get a bit of practice with listening, make sure you check out this video right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.